Hello. All right. It's not going to be an exciting stream. This is more of a I need to work and I might as well take people with me. So if you have any questions regarding modeling and Onshape, then let me know. I'll try to get to it as quickly as possible. So, plan for today is to redo a thing that I've already modeled, which is the HGX Lite. So this is a step file that I downloaded, and then I pretty much just removed everything that I didn't need. So anything that's not needed for clearances or mounting holes is removed. And then I'm going to do this again, but limiting the amount of polygons used. And we can check that. If we go to here, you can see at the tab graphics here, it has 112,000 triangles, which is too much, and 994 edges. That's also way too much. So a lot of it is this gear and the nubs on this thumb screw, but I'm going to remove as much of this as possible and pretty much just model something that looks like this. And yeah, so that's the plan. And I've looked around for like a decent schematic for this thing. I can only find some mounting hole schematics, which is not enough for what I need to do. So I have this model, and then I also actually have one right here that I can use. So I'm just gonna put this on my other monitor, and then I'll be checking that. So the first thing I'm gonna do is model the base, because that sort of sets the whole thing. I mean, I could start with the back maybe, but I think the base is gonna be a nice little start for this. So this whole opening here, I'm just gonna ignore. I'm gonna ignore the thumb screw. I just need this plate. Let me change the color of this to make it easier. There you go. Now you can see what I'm selecting. All right. So what I'll do is, to get all the dimensions here, I'm just going to start a sketch on this, and I'm just going to project everything that I need. And that is pretty much it. Next is a dimension. I think I'm just going to dimension the whole thing and then chop the front corners off. Let's see if these are, yep, these are 2.5 chamfers. And these holes are 3.1, and I'm gonna just gonna double check if they are equal lengths from the edge, and they are, yes. All right. Let's see. 7.25, and how about this guy? Is that 7.25? Yeah, so all of these are on a line, so that should be nice and simple. All right, I'll put that off to my right side, and let's start. So I'm just going to go into my extruder folder here and then create a new part studio. Let's do the simple things first. Just gonna type in the name. Hello, Alex. And then I'm gonna gonna start on the bottom of the top face. And I'm gonna do a rectangle as my origin. Here we are. I'm not sure why, but YouTube is translating all the chats, which is sort of annoying. So I'm modeling this guy for my 3D printing component repository project. So I'm pretty much just recreating what exists, but it's still a little bit of work to do. So right now I'm just working off of what I have. And yeah. Let's see. Let's put these in. So I'm gonna put in some stuff here. You are 3.1 and you two are the same size, and then this one doesn't really matter. But I'm just gonna set it to the same as the original, which is 5.2. Let's chamfer these corners. All right, that is pretty much it for the base. Yeah, Manuel, the repository is already available. There's a link in the description for it. It's on my website. canrog.com/3dpcr. All right, let's extrude this, and what I'm basing this extrusion on is the height of this. So let's look at this. So the height here, that's what I'm basing this off of. And in Onshape and right behind my head, right, that's difficult. Right there. That has the parallel distance labeled as 7 millimeters. So that's just my basis for the extrude. All right, we have a base. So I'm looking at the model and trying to figure out what to do next and hide all my sketches. And I think I'm just going to model the back side. And what I'm seeing is there's this bump up here. I think I can ignore that. So if I model in, I want to have the distance between that two. So let's so I'm just gonna get all of that, and these ones are important, and this guy in the middle here is important. All right, and then I'm gonna start dimensioning stuff here. So I'm using this bottom corner to set any dimension that is needed. So let's see. What's the basis of those two? So now my question is, if I create that and make them vertical, is that it's barely outside, so that needs to be taken into account. Total height here, and I'm thinking I'm just going to make this one big circle and then crudely create this bump, which is that size. All right, let's put this to the side and then start drawing. So I'm on the back. I'm just gonna draw the general shape. And I'm ignoring all of the, let's see. There's going to be a circle there, a big circle there, small circle, let's see, attached to that, and another one attached to that. And I'm going to put that there, and I'm assuming that this guy is in the middle of those two. Yeah, so if you're coming from Fusion, the GUI looks different, but the process is the same. The big difference with Onshape is if you learn how to use assemblies, they will improve your workflow a lot. Just look at this document. It's already becoming sort of huge. But I can easily just isolate one part and work on it, and then my final document is always going to be updated. So let's see. I'm assuming a lot here. Let's see. Motor has to be on the middle, doesn't it? Yep, it's in the middle. So when coming from Fusion, the important thing to note is that the GUI looks different, but it does contain all the same stuff. There's nothing inherently different in how they work. They do the exact same thing, but instead of having the multiple tabs at the top of different processes, it's all done here. Okay, so those two are the same. Those two are the same. And then this guy has a radius of 18.25, and that is setting the so I'm gonna add 2. So the distance between those two is 43.84. This distance is 20. So now I'm looking at an issue here, and that is the fact that these are sort of on an angle. And so I'm gonna have to set that angle, because I can't do just tangent, that won't work. I can make them tangent to these small circles. That's okay. Yep, already tangent, okay. So in this guy, I'm gonna have to set the angle between that. Pretty much just that, it doesn't really matter, but so that's a big number. So I'm just gonna copy that. And then I'm gonna go in here. And I'm gonna set this angle. I'm just gonna do the same one so I know it's the exact same. Alright. And then the radius of this guy here is 3.5, but this is diameter, so times 2. Alright, so that one is locked in. I'm guessing the other one has the same angle. Let me check. Just gonna make sure to copy that. There we go. Here, Tarnagy. Just modeling. Nothing that exciting. Unless you're interested in modeling, then you're welcome to stay. Or if you just want to hang out. So I'm recreating the HDX Lite, but simplifying it as much as possible to put it in my component repository. 4.6. Yeah, so Alright, so I'm just looking at this guy, trying to see if I've missed something, important details. And I can't say that I can see anything wrong here. So other than adding chamfers and fillets, I think I'm there. And I'm trying not to add chamfers and fillets. Alright, so we want to extrude that direction. And we want to include that part and that part. And then let's see, how thick is it? And is it the same thickness all the way around? So that is 4. That is another 4. That works. All right. It's not a tool changer, no. I'm working on my 3D 3D printer component repository. So if you haven't seen it, I might as well show it. So this is what I'm working on. And it's a repository of components that are simplified specifically for CAD work. It saves you from having to find different step files and have a lot of unnecessary stuff in your CADs. It'll speed it up. Also, there's this nice little feature of adding fans and rails and carriages, and they automatically scale. Hello, Shrimpfather. And yeah, so I'm just grabbing as many components as I can and then adding them to the thing here. All right, so let's bring up this guy. And I'm just gonna do that. And what I need now is, I think I'm just gonna put in that gear, but as a circle. So I'm gonna figure out where to make it. And I think the best thing to do would be the distance between that, and then create a new surface to work on. So that's 2.7. In case you didn't know, Onshape has measurements for selected parts down here in the right corner. So 2.7. So I'm just going to create a new plane, and then I'm offsetting that with 2.7, and then into the part like that. And then I'm going to make a new sketch on that plane. And now I need to figure out where to put that circle, because I need to put this circle here, right? But I don't know the size or where exactly. So let's bring up this guy again. Look at the back. And I'm just going to make a sketch on the surface of that gear. I should be able to snap a line here to there. That gives me the radius. That's 23, so I'm just going to mark it 22.999. That is 23. And then I need a position for this center. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go and base it off of this circle. So I can just dimension. What I usually do is I'm going to make a box here. And that gives me all of my dimensions easily, like that. So now I know that I need to go 5.706 out and then 12.235 up. So put that back, and I'm just gonna use project that, and then put in a rectangle to there. And put in my measurements, 5.706. Probably a bit too precise, but oh well. 12.235. So that's the position of it, and then that is my measurement, and that's 23. All right. So the thickness of this guy. Let's drag this guy back in. And the thickness is pretty much just, that, and it's 3. So I just need to extrude that entire sketch 3, and then the opposite direction. There we go. All right, next, I think we can make the whole front here. So I'm pretty much just gonna model this face. So let's just focus on that a little bit and create a new sketch on that face, and then I'm just going to project everything and make sure I get the correct holes here, because hole locations are important for this project. It's the whole basis of everything. Here we go. Don't really think I need this one. Do I? It's not a bolt. No, it's an axle, so we don't need that one. So let's just ignore that. And what we really need here. Don't need that. Okay. And we don't need this. All right. So first of all, I'm gonna dimension all of the holes. And then I'm gonna dimension the location of them. There we go. And then this guy. Total height. So this slanted part is going to be a little bit tricky, but we can make that work. So if we go in here and we pretty much just extend this, and then extend this, and then have them meet, we know that this is just a line. We can draw that, and then draw up, and then I can cut this part off. So I can figure out where to cut it off by just zooming in here. And then make those two parallel. Alright, there we go. So that gives me the cutoff point. Straightening out the curves. Parallel. Oops. Oh, that's not a curve. Okay, interesting. That'll be easier. Alright, so let's start adding those to this guy. And I'm gonna start at the back. I could start here. Let's take this back up and let's have a look at it. So yeah, I can easily just start it from this face here and extrude it to the front. I could just, yeah, it's I'm an idiot. I can just start it at the front and extrude back. I'll do that. Alright, so you sketch on this front face. I'm just gonna hide everything to that. So there's two holes down here. There's a hole up here. Alright, so let's connect these two, make sure that they're horizontal to each other. And I have an offset here of 6.14. Offset here of 15.7. Yep. And the height is 3.5. This is two sets of holes here, so I'm just going to model in both of them in this single sketch. two guys are 3.1. And then you guys are 6. Now this guy and that guy is the same, and then we add in a little hole here. Alright. So I know the location of this hole, so I can set that immediately. So from this bottom edge, that hole is 33.6. And then from this bottom corner, it is 13.17. There we go. Right, so up here we have let's see, we have something like this. Right, yeah. So gonna have to do just set an angle on this guy, and I have this measurement here as well. That's 19.07. And I have this angle. It's 73.934. Alright. So this line has an angle. I can set that. It's 80.3. And this guy has an angle. I can set that to 30. Alright. That is the base shape. Do I want to add some fillets? I mean, I want to try and avoid them, so I'm just gonna extrude this whole thing. Let's see. And I'm just gonna extrude it up to this face. I need to remove these two guys, and they go all the way through. Yep. So, through all, remove. That's easy. Just include that one so that it adds the hole to the back. And these ones are inset, I think by 3mm. That's the logic in my head, at least, but no, it's way more. Way more. It's 4.5. Alright. I think I want to add, there's a little bump here where the lever attaches. I want to add that, so just gonna go back into my sketch. And what I'm doing here is I'm just going to find the location of this hole. And then the radius of that guy. That's all, pretty much all I need. So I can go back into my original sketch here and then add a thing here, and that's 3.5. I'm just gonna set 7. And then I know that this guy here is 6. That one is 8.72. Right. So in that extrude, I'm just gonna make sure to add that guy. Alright, that looks better. Alright, so now I'm gonna add the lever here, and that doesn't really need to be that precise. I just need to figure out the location of it. That's my primary thing right now, is to figure out where it is. And what I can do is, if I figure out just the distance from the front or the back, I can put that in. But I can also figure out the distance between the midpoint of this guy. So if I find the midpoint and then locate that, I can extrude it as a symmetric extrude. That should be easier, I think. So what I'm going to do is find a nice midpoint here. So it's going to be like that. So that gives me a plane, and if I do that, I get the offset from the front, which is 10.4. So if I draw it at 10.4 offset, so let's do that. I'm going to add a new plane, offset from the front, and 10.4 and into the part, of course, and then I'm going to sketch on that plane. Alright, now to figure out what to sketch, and this one's a little bit different. So I'm going to use, instead of the project tool, I'm going to sketch on that plane. I'm going to use the intersect tool, and I'm going to just press on all of these. I think that is all I need, because ideally I'm just going to make a rectangle up and down and then attach it to the rest of the frame, right? So pretty much going to do this, and I'm going to put that onto there and onto there. Connect those two, then connect those two. That gives me everything that I need. That's 41 by 4.1. That's fun. And then this guy here. That, I think, is all I need. A 42 by 4.1 rectangle, and then 5.7 from that bottom corner. So I can just add a rectangle like this. I'm just gonna add that in. So 5.17. That guy is 1, and 2, and then this guy connects down there. Ta-da! So what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to connect it. So let's set these lines to not be construction lines. And I'm just going to connect it up here. And then I can just do that, and I'll have one single piece. And I'm going to extrude, but symmetric, and then I need to figure out how thick this thing is. And hopefully it's a straight part. Yep, 16. So I'm just going to add 16 to that here. Then finally, I'm going to add the bolt. I can do that in a quite easy way. So I'm just going to go into this sketch, and I'm going to press my project tool. Let's see. Edit sketch. And use project. I'm just going to find pretty much that point right there, and then this thumb screw is that, because if I now do a center line here, and then I'm gonna add a box right here. So if I do that and that one, so that's just 2 rectangles, and I can rotate them, revolve them, and it should be easy. So 13, 1.5, 5 and 3. All right, and then I need the location, which is pretty much that. All right, let's do that. So I'm gonna go back into the sketch here, and I'm just gonna add these 2 parts like so, and I know that the distance between those 2 is 11.187, and I know that distance is 1.5. This one is 3, and that one is 5. Alright, so what do I need to set this? The total depth here, that's 13. So now I just need to go in here, select revolve, turn on my sketch, and select those 2, and that is the axes, and that's my bolts. Done. Alright, so that does look like the HDX. I want to do a couple of small tweaks to make it look better. I mean, it needs to be minimal, right? So I don't want to add too much. I want to make it so that it still looks like the HDX. And I'm just gonna add a little fillet here and there. There. Try not to overdo this, but still make it look, you know, good. I don't want too many of these. So finally I need to make sure that this hole goes all the way through and the top has a connector, so I'm gonna make sure I get that one in too. Alright, so I think I can just sketch on the bottom and just add a 2mm hole and then extrude that through all. Oops. There we go. So that is my top location, and up here there's a collet, and I just need to add that as a circle. Doesn't need to be that exciting. I don't have that in the CAD model, so luckily I have one here. So I'll get my calipers. Eight millimeters. All I need to do is type 8. And I just need to add some length, and that thing is 3. And there we go. That should be everything that's needed for the HDX. So let's add some color to it just to make it look better. Pretty much all of it is black, so its appearance, and that guy is silver. Should I add any more? So everything else that has any color on it is pretty much just hidden on my model, so no, I think that's good. Alright, let's put that into our thing here. So let's rename the part HDX light. And I'm going to go into my main assembly here. And I'm going to place it just right next to the Sherpa. So insert. I need to call it extruder dash. Yep, let's fix that quickly. Extruder HDX light. Insert extruder. It's not updated, but it'll update. Alright. It's in the collection. You should add a text to it so that it's easy to recognize. Let's do that quickly. And I'm just going to add 2 text boxes. And HGX. Another one. Light. And I want to place these in a decent spot, so I want them to be central to each other. This one needs to be smaller. Let's set the distance here first, and then I can pull that in and set that distance there. we go. That looks good. And I'm going to extrude that by 0.2, but remove. Actually, 0.1 is enough. And then we can add some color to this. There we go. Let's go into our assembly. Here we go. Alright, that's it for that extruder. Let's see here. So what do people want me to make? Because that was the only plan that I had for today, but I want to keep doing a couple more things. So if anyone has a suggestion to things, components, we can see if we can find some dimensions and just get them done. Hello, Keep 3D. Doing the Lord's work. Well, I'm trying. One thing that I might do, but it also kind of messes things up, is to add names for all the MGN rails. Like it would say MGN7, MGN9, etc. on the sides. I might do that later. Yes, so about the fans. So I have, if we look at normal axial fans, I have pretty much any size you can find up to the 140/25, which is the 14mm PC fan. So there's a 1225, that's a normal PC fan. Labels are a good thing. I do agree. I'm just gonna have to figure out the auto generate part of it. I mean, I'm already doing it for the fans, but you know. So axial fans are super easy because I've literally just made one, and then I'm using the a fun component feature in Onshape to pretty much just model everything. We could probably take a look at that. So if I go into my axial fan selector here, you'll see that there's only one fan. But if I change my configuration, it changes the fan. And the way I've done that is, oh, hold on, my cat is doing things that it shouldn't do, eating rubber bands. Yay. So the way I'm doing this is by creating this initial sketch right here. So this is the only sketch that I really need in this, and that has all the dimensions, but it's separated into this table. So this is, let's see, this is a 120, so that's 105 is this number, so that's the bolt pattern. Revo, Howland, yeah, if people want me to do the Revo and I can find a decent either model to base it off of or dimensions drawing, then yeah, I can do that. I'm pretty much just adding all the parts that I can think about. So yeah, this feature, having to be able to just make this table and have the parts configure themselves, is a game changer, in my opinion. But, and there's a big but, the radial fans won't work like that because they have different sizes. So even this, I don't think this 3010 is correct. I'm gonna have to go and check one of the ones that I have in my workshop, because Looking at dimensions for these things, yeah, it's tricky because dimensions for these fans are never the same. Probes, I haven't made any yet, but that is definitely something we can do. I think I'm gonna wait with the Revo and do the probes. So we can do the BL touch and I can do the 3D touch because that's the same thing. Micro probe from Big Tree Tech. Creality has one. Yeah, I can do that. So I'm just gonna go into my miscellaneous folder. Let's go in here and make a new folder. Probes. And in there, let's create a part studio. Rename that to PL Dutch. Alright, we need to find a model to base this off of. Or preferably just a dimension drawing. Pillar probes are fairly simple, yeah. There are specs to them that I could maybe look at into if there's a set sort of different types of Pinda probes and lengths and diameters, then might be able to create a progressive model for it. Let's see. That is pretty much what I need right there. So we can start off by making this back plate and then adding this cylinder as a revolve. That should be simple, right? Final last words. All right. So let's bring my origin in. I think I'm gonna start out with just making half of it. Alright, so that one and that one needs to be centered. Okay, so I have the measurements. So this should be fairly simple. Port for the cable produced in the back. Yep. I think we can, if I can model the base of this and then have a look at maybe, because like I think I have a CAD model already or a step file of this, so we can definitely have a look at that. No, that one is 11.53. That is 0.2. That is 4. Nope, it's gonna be 8. Because the drawing has a radius. And I'm gonna do a little bit of a trick here. So if I convert that to a construction line and a dimension from that to the construction line, and then move there, I can set the final dimension here, which is 6. not sure why it's doing that, but it is correct, so alright. There is a hole here in the center. There's no size of it, but I'm going to set it to just bigger than these two. Yep. So I'm just going to extrude those guys the other way. Let's see. Well, that is annoying. So here's a thing that annoys me. If we look at all this, there's this one here hasn't been dimensioned, so I'm gonna have to take this big number and then subtract all the other numbers. So that's 36.3. Let's see, minus 5. Minus, no, not 5. Let's see. 36.3 minus 26.3, and then minus 7.7. So that's 2.3. And then I'm gonna create the cylinder. Correct dimensions for this direction. Let me see. I can do it there instead. So I'll be doing that. And for my sanity, I'm going to do that. And I'm going to draw, let's see. So total length from there. Actually, I'm going to do this 7.7 first. This guy is 26.3. Well, that made me feel like an idiot. Yeah, I could have just done that. That's what I get from staring at numbers all day, I guess. There we go. That guy is 5. So there's a couple of dimensions I'm just gonna guess, like this guy here. And I don't really have this dimension, so that'll have to be figured out. I do have this dimension though. And I don't know this dimension, so I'm just going to set that to something like 1.5 maybe. And then it looks decent. Just gonna add also going to do something here. So the thing here is that the pin has two different locations, and I'm just looking at the technical drawing of where it wants to be. So I'm just gonna add in this little line here. So that'll be just a tiny line that I drew in the wrong spot. Crap. Let's do that again, shall we? Convert that to a solid line. I'm gonna have to do that. Yes. So now I can revolve that and that around that axis. Let's just quickly mirror. Oops. Let's jump one step back here. That guy. All right. And then up here, looking at the sketch, they have a rectangle 8 wide, and then 11.53. So now if I just make a rectangle that's bigger than that, doesn't matter how big, but I'll be able to extrude that through all. And I have a feeling that that is not correct. Does that look like a BL touch to you? It does look like the front of a BL touch. I need the back, and I'm gonna go through and check my check all of my models. I might have this. Yep, I do have it. Let's see. I have it multiple times, but alright. I can figure that out pretty simple. So this is it in another model, but I can just extrapolate what I need from it. And what I need is some general dimensions. And then the port in the back, I need the total size of that. So if I go in here, let's see, do I have everything? This is a BL Touch sensor. So I'm just gonna hide everything except the sketch that I'm working on. There's another sketch visible there. There's another sketch visible somewhere. There it is. There's a couple of different sketches visible here. Alright, so this is what I have to work with. Let's see. There we go. There we go. Right. So what I can do now is I can make sure that I have, so the front is here. I'm just gonna draw it this direction. Let's see. Let's hide that. Add a sketch to there. I can just draw my thing. Let's see. So down here, there's a line. Mid, let's dimension that to there. 6.5. That one is 5. just going to add these. Let's see. So ideally I would just add them up to this profile. I'm just going to do this for now. I'll fix that later. And then I can also remove that guy. Alright, so where's the location of that port? Port starts 6.7 from the top. Let's do that just immediately. Starting offset of 6.7, and the total height of the port is 4.2. So that's the port. Finally, I'm gonna fix this part because that doesn't look great, right? And I can do that by adding this. I'm probably gonna have to add a little bit more. Nope. Let's see. Just gonna add that. So now I can go back into this sketch. I can revolve these two, and the axes is that guy, and then remove. That is okay. Maybe I'll just stretch that up. Let's do that. Let's keep that stretched. So there's a parallel. These are vertical. Just connect that. And then I can do that is a BL touch. Don't think I want to do anything else to it. What I could do is maybe model this guy so that it actually looks like the probe, and I'll be able to do that quite easily by doing this. Let's move that down. That works. Alright, so let's rename this to probe BL touch. Let's add some color to it. So the whole thing is white, right? So I'm just gonna do the whole thing white. And then on this flat side, I'm gonna make that green because there's a PCB there. And then this port is white, so I'm gonna keep that white. But this thing here normally has a band on it. So let's just make that into like a yellowish color. Alright, now finally let's add some text, because it does say BL Touch on the original. Right about here. And of course that is the wrong orientation. Now I want to figure out where to put this, and what I'm going to do is something really simple. And I'm going to do that. Let's remove that temporarily. And I'm just going to connect those with rectangles and then make these all the same size, and that should not work. Alright, that didn't work, so let's center it by making those two the same, and then let's make those two the same. Didn't want to do that. Alright. Why are you... You're not supposed to be set. There we go, that one's... There we go. Now I can make you two the same size. I'm just gonna set that distance to be 1. That works. Alright. Let's extrude that. 0.1. Remove. Text. Black. There we go. We have a BL Touch. Let's add it to our collection. All right, so that's a BL Touch. The next would be the micro probe. Just gonna save myself a lot of time and check if I have it. Yes, I do. This one's a little bit trickier because there's a lot of just random fillets and chamfers. Actually, there's no fillets on this, only chamfers. So I'm gonna have to just see what I can do about it. But start is pretty much the same as always. Main side is this guy. Oh, check this out. This guy is on an angle. So I'm gonna have to take that in into consideration. Probably just gonna have to just model or just draw everything. That is not the way it's supposed to be. There we go. So that is so now it's even more important that I base everything off of this corner down there. And I'm thinking, I should probably use those, right? So I'm a little bit, I wouldn't call it confused. It's mostly the fact that there's so many angles to this thing. Let's just get this main face set up first and then maybe do that and then try to make it look like the Micro Pro after. Alright. I have the distance for that first hole. I have the size of this box. I don't have this measurement. Let's see. Alright, that should give me enough. Let's go into the probe folder, create part studio. I have it flipped. Wrong way there. Okay. That's fixed. So the tricky part about this one is the fact that it's not really, like, there's a lot of angles here. So that one is not a 90-degree angle, and this one so I'm missing one measurement. That one. So this guy is 22.019. But then this guy here is 21.716. That doesn't work because it wants to make those two parallel. Alright. So let's make a line from the midpoint of that one to the midpoint of that one. Menu, there we go. And that one. that one and that one needs to line up. Okay. Let's see. You and you are vertical. There you go. And I know the total height of this is 5.8. I want to set you and you to be midpoints. There we go. So I turned it upside down here, just to have it so that when I'm looking at the front, it will face the front. And there's two circles. Set the distance between these two at 16.925. And then if I make those two equals, they end up in the same spot, and then that dimension there is 3.3. To do some creative stuff here. So that's 1.847. That's 1.8. Those two 0.895, 0.92. Okay. That's the first. That's the top part, and I need to add this bottom part. I should have most of my dimensions here. Yep. So what I'll do is I'm just gonna make a construction line here. And another one here. It's like both of them, make them equal. And then I know the distance, oops. I know the distance between those. It's 15.543. And then up here, I have that shape. So if I make those two equal, those two equal, and those two equal, then everything should just, you know, be symmetrical. So that one is 7.136. That one is 7.56. Let's see. That dimension 3.911. I have the total height. This 11.211. There we go. first sketch done. Let's just extrude this. And again, I'm using a generic model to figure out the extrude length, and that is 2.05 something. Alright, so next I'll do the back. Just gonna check one thing first. Is this and this? Yep, they're parallel. Okay, so I can just draw on one of them. Doesn't matter which one. It's the same extrude. So let's start sketching. And oops. So it's important for me to know that the port on back here is a separate piece, and I'll add that in later. Alright, so I'll need all of these dimensions. This little kink right here, I can skip that guy. And then I need the height of all of these measurements. All right. So let's start by sketching this guy like that, and then in, and then down, and then in, and then that's the final one. Okay. Let's mirror this. And then I can just add my, I think I'll start with my heights. 14.87. 6. 0.5. And then all my widths. I'm gonna add some construction lines here to simplify this. All right. Now comes the tricky part. But also, I don't think I need to do it this tricky. So let's look at this guy here. So what I really need is the distance between that face and that vertex, which is 12.091. So that's 12.1. If I just extrude everything to 12.1 and then smooth off this thing back to its original size, I think I'm good. Yep. 12.1. Just gonna add a new sketch to the right plane, and then I'm gonna do this. Get that one, and I'm gonna get that one. Alrighty then. So at the same time, I can sort of create in this same sketch, I'll create a little bit of a front here, because I know the measurement of that. Just gonna eyeball this. Yeah. Now if I add some chamfers to these two edges, I'm just going to add something like that. It'll start looking like a that is enough to identify it as a microprobe. So let's add the final piece, la résistance. That is the port on the back, which is 11.5. And then let's extrude that. And the total height of that port is 3.5. That's our extrude distance, but we need an offset from the top. 3.187. So starting offset of 3.187 and flip that direction. And there we go. A lot of work. Well, I enjoy this. This is this calms me down. So I like making stuff. And this is kind of brainless. I don't have to think that much. And it's also one of those things where when I started building this, I built it because I wanted simplified models, and this is the best way to get them. Alright, so final thing is the little nub on the bottom, and I know the location of that. And I know the size of it. Okay, so let's go to the bottom. I'm just gonna make a sketch here with a construction line up and a circle. And I did not get that vertical. There you go. So 1.82. And I know this size. Let's see. 605. Distance is 5.44. And there we go. Maybe I should chamfer these. Is that really? I'll grab that number, go back into my chamfer, and I'll set that exact. There we go, that looks better. So now we can write the name on the front. I'm just gonna write microprobe. That should be enough. And it'll do that in the wrong direction. This is so unnecessary, but I'm still gonna do it. And I know that I want that distance to be 1. So now I can pull this in. I'll set those to be equal. And if I set that one and that one to be equal, it's in the center. And I'm good with that. And 0.1 and remove. Here we go. So let's just color this guy then. And I'm gonna go black by default. There doesn't need to be anything there. The port itself needs to be colored white. It'll look strange if it isn't. Add appearance, and I'm gonna do that in like an off-white eggshell kind of thing. And the probe on this is metal, so I'm just gonna go like a silver, bright silver. There we go. And then add some text. This is a BQ product, so blue. Add appearance. And that's it, that's a nice blue. And that works. Alright. So let's rename this to probe. And rename the studio. Alright, and go back into our master document and then add it. Microprobe. Here we go. That's a productive little 2-hour stint. Making those 3. So I wanted to do a 2-hour stream and I'm just at 1 hour and 57 minutes, so I think I'm gonna end it for tonight. Yeah, hopefully I'll do a couple more of these. It's more of a trying to plan when I want to do this. It's not the easiest, but I'll try. So I'll jump off here. Make sure if you aren't subscribed, I do a lot of Onshape content, and yeah, I'll keep working on this. New studio coming soon. More building stuff, studio workshop streams coming, and yeah. Bye bye.